In December 1945, 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers departed from Florida on a routine training flight. Hours later, the flight leader reported failing compasses and an ocean that appeared unrecognizable. The planes flew until they ran low on fuel, descended into what they described as white water, and vanished. No wreckage was ever recovered. 2 years later, the exploration of the Antarctic ice led Admiral Richard E. Byrd into the center of a different kind of legend. According to a widely circulated diary released after his death, Byrd supposedly flew through a hidden opening at the South Pole. He reportedly entered a world populated by advanced aircraft, crystal cities, and an ancient civilization. These two locations grew into massive cultural fixations. Over the following decades, they generated a steady stream of profitable speculation, spawning best-selling paperbacks, board games, and blockbuster movies featuring alien abductions and sunken continents. Millions of people accepted that these regions possess supernatural properties or function as portals to other dimensions. Yet a close examination of historical records, maritime logs, and meteorological data reveals that the supernatural claims attached to them are entirely false. These locations are manufactured fictions. Deconstructing their history reveals the specific mechanics of how a modern myth is constructed from the ground up. Every enduring legend begins with a mundane, real-world tragedy. In 1918, the USS Cyclops, a 500-foot Navy collier carrying over 300 men, disappeared between Barbados and the United States. The ship was carrying 11,000 tons of manganese ore, a material far denser than the coal it was designed to haul. During a severe storm, while operating with a broken engine, that dense cargo shifted. The ship rolled over and sank before anyone could send a distress signal. The disappearance of Flight 19 in 1945 followed a similar pattern of human error. Flight leader Charles Taylor's compasses failed, and in his disorientation, he refused to listen to his trainees, who correctly pointed out they needed to fly west to reach Florida. He led the squadron further into the Atlantic until they ran out of fuel and ditched in the rough sea. A rescue plane dispatched to search for them also disappeared that night, but a passing merchant ship witnessed it explode in midair. The aircraft was a PBM Mariner, a model notorious for severe gasoline vapor leaks. A single stray spark ignited the fumes. In Antarctica, Admiral Byrd's 1946 deployment, Operation High Jump, was a naval task force organized as a drill. It was designed to test how well U.S. military ships and aircraft could operate in extreme cold, preparing for potential conflict in Arctic conditions. The operation was terminated early because the extreme cold severely damaged the equipment. The planes and ships simply could not function in the freezing temperatures. Harsh weather, human error, and mechanical flaws provide raw material for these legends. They leave behind a trail of missing bodies and sunken metal that mythmakers later exploit. The myth enters an opportunistic phase, where writers take real tragedies and strip them of their context to sell copies. In 1964, author Vincent Gaddis drew lines connecting Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. By grouping isolated, unrelated tragedies together, he imposed a pattern on random events and coined the phrase the Bermuda Triangle. Charles Berlitz turned that phrase into a global phenomenon, selling 20 million copies by blaming the disappearances on the sunken city of Atlantis. To maintain the mystery, Berlitz ignored contradictory weather logs showing massive storms and included ships that actually sank thousands of miles away in the Pacific Ocean. The Hollow Earth narrative replicated this process. Admiral Byrd's supposed secret diary, detailing an Aryan master race in crystal cities, was a complete forgery released well after his death to feed a growing market of conspiracy believers. Successful myth-making relies on the deliberate omission of context. By ignoring violent storms and misrepresenting crash locations, writers force isolated events into a terrifying narrative. This chart compares the casualty percentage of vessels in the Bermuda Triangle against the global average. Shipping insurance giant Lloyd's of London tracks decades of maritime casualty data, and their records prove the rate of missing vessels in the Triangle is mathematically identical to any other heavily trafficked ocean. Furthermore, a maritime safety study by the World Wildlife Fund identified the 10 most dangerous waters for global shipping. The Bermuda Triangle does not even make the list. The navigational anomalies reported in the area are a known scientific phenomenon called compass declination. Magnetic compasses point to magnetic north, not true geographic north. Navigators must constantly correct their headings to account for this variation. Any vessel that does fail in the Atlantic faces the Gulf Stream. This massive ocean current moves rapidly along the western edge of the triangle. It functions as an incredibly swift underwater river, quickly scattering and erasing floating wreckage before rescue teams can arrive. When subjected to rigorous mathematical and scientific scrutiny, the curses vanish. These locations revert to being completely ordinary patches of deep water and glacial ice. If shipping logs, Navy records, and statistical mathematics so thoroughly destroy these myths, why do we continue to believe in them? When we lose a 500-foot ship or an entire flight squadron, the mind struggles with the silence of the ocean. Psychologists suggest that we cling to these stories because they provide an illusion of control. The reality of maritime and aviation disasters is defined by random chance. A steel hull snapping under an 80-foot rogue wave is a reminder of our vulnerability. It is easier to process a monster or a portal than it is to process the fact that a massive vessel can randomly disappear due to an indifferent anomaly of physics. Conspiracies offer an antidote to that randomness. Believing in UFO abductions or hidden cities provides a motive and a narrative. They replace the terrifying indifference of the Atlantic with a name and an intent that we can wrap our minds around. When we stare into the Bermuda Triangle or the Antarctic ice, we aren't looking at supernatural portals. We are looking at our own psychological need to live in a magical universe, rather than one governed by indifferent chaos.